welcome to the Circus of Crazy, also known as the world. I am your ringmaster, GalaxyOfInk, and today we're going to discuss a little thing that I have named, but probably has already been talked about, and I call it the honors paradox. Okay, so I'm a kid who is in all honors classes. For every available honors course that there is, I take it. I am in honors science, I am in honors math, and I am in AP English, and I am in AP World, I think I'm considered AP World as well. Okay, so all four of my classes are honor classes, and as those of you who probably already know, I mean, I don't want to call anybody stupid, honors classes usually means that you have a lot more work, or the course goes faster, or you're given more in-depth knowledge of the subjects, which means that having 4 times in-depth knowledge, more work and everything means that you have 4 times the amount of work, basically, than kids who are just taking Regents level classes. This isn't a bad thing until it starts to lean towards the area of being dangerous to mental health, I think. For instance, one of the big problems is that when you have an AP course, and I've run into this time and time and time again, I think the majority of teachers that I have had seem to have either they express it or they'll act like their class is most important. And it doesn't matter what class it is, it doesn't matter what unit you're teaching, doesn't matter who you are. I've had a chorus teacher that was like that. And we're not saying as honors kids, or just, I think as students in general, it's not saying that your class isn't important, it's saying that we have other classes that are probably maybe a little bit more important, or even not more important overall, we're saying more important at this time, because if I have a final in a class where I sit down, or say if I have a unit test coming up in geometry, but I'm supposed to do like a 50, I'm supposed to make a 50 fact chart sheet for global, I'm going to be focusing more on studying for my geometry test, because that is more important, because it's a test grade rather than a homework grade. And you'll see teachers still say, oh, well, my homework still has to come first. And that becomes dangerous. The thing is, you'll also see a lot of honors kids also do sports, or they do extracurricular clubs, or they do stuff outside of school. A lot of us do things outside of school, or they'll do music programs, anything like that. Most of all, basically, honors kids become honors kids in all 4 subjects because we are probably well-rounded kids, which means that we have, for instance, one of the kids in my grade, he's in all honors classes for everything. He's actually in AP for math, which I am not, and he also plays basketball, baseball, and golf, and he's great at all of them. I know someone who did violin outside of school, did piano outside of school, and sang in music, and also did acting troupe. A lot of us actually do acting troupe. A lot of us try to aim to go to all county, because usually our level of wanting to learn doesn't stop just at the 4 main course subjects. We have other things that we wish to learn. Some of that stuff can't be gained in school, and it might be something that we've realized at a certain point, hey, maybe I want to go into this field. This isn't being taught to me right now. I want to apply myself in this, and this is outside of school. But you run into the dilemma as an honors kid of trying to balance everything, and if you do, it almost comes at a toll of your sanity. You don't see many honors kids going out to parties all the time, and there's not even a sense of, well, you're an honor kid, you should be home studying, or that parties are bad. It's not even because of that, because you have to, parties are, it's a social place. It's just all social things. You don't see a lot of honors kids constantly doing a lot of social stuff, simply because they don't have the time to. And that can really be damaging. For me, personally, I know, so I do acting outside of school all the time, and it takes a lot out of you. And that means that I don't have time to hang out with friends who, whether or not they're in the honors classes, so they start getting closer and closer, and that's not their fault. It's not anyone's fault here, but it's just, you lose time to form close relationships with people anyone when you're constantly in your room for 6 hours doing homework and studying over and over again. I think one of the big problems that I have that people always say is that, oh, well, if you have too much homework, or if you have a problem with this teacher, or anything along those lines, oh, you should just talk to your guidance counselor. And I think that's one of the funniest statements that I usually hear from people, because I have blocks of all of these 4 classes. In order for me to go to my guidance counselor, I need to either stay after school, come into school earlier, or take time out of one of my classes, or take time out of my lunch. My lunch, my less than 40-minute time, is the only time of social relaxation time that you get during the entire day for me, because I have a full schedule both semesters. That's the only time where you can talk with your friends about anything that's happening, or just, your own way of relaxation. That's your only time that you get, is a little bit less than 40 minutes. And if, say, I have a show later that day, I have even less time, because I get home and then I do homework and then I immediately put on makeup and then I'm gone. So it's not, that 40 minutes might be my only time frame that I have here. Furthermore, if you come earlier into school, that probably implies that you're getting a ride to school. A lot of us can't. My parents leave at both 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock and closer to 7:30, 7:15-ish, every morning for their work. So that's not an option for me to get to school early. Staying after school late might mean that you are also losing the only time that you have after school, or you might not have a ride home besides the bus, so then you're there for an hour and a half when you only need to talk to this person for 10 minutes. And then you also just have to sit in school longer, which I can actually fairly say, even for the honors kids, no one really likes to do, by the way. It's that paradox of trying to be well-rounded in everything and stay good in everything, but also trying to get well-rounded in your social life and just be a mentally happy person. And they should not come at the cost of each other, I don't think. I don't think you should have to drop an honors class in order to get a social life. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I'm a 10th grader going through the system. There might be plenty of reasons that I'm not aware of that this is the system that is set up. But I feel like when you look at the honors kids that'll come out, and you'll see cases of people who get out and they've just been grinding the entire time. They get out into the real world after college, and just there's nothing there, because you haven't had the chance to form any close relationships with people. You haven't had the chance to learn simple things like cooking because you're eating in or anything like that. You don't have time. You physically do not have time. And there's a level too that's I'm 15 years old, and I feel like I already have a full-time job. I'm working sometimes 12 hours a day. You come home, I have a 6-hour school day, which are going non-stop, and then you come home, and then you might have 3 hours of homework, and that's 9 hours. Because every teacher will say that their homework's under an hour, and that you're only under an hour sometimes if you're not the kid that's struggling with one of the subjects, and you're not the kid that messed up on one problem, or you're not the kid that has to review something, or Google something. Then it's an hour, or less than an hour. Sometimes it might go faster for some kids. For me, global always goes faster than is anticipated because I'm very good at global. But, for instance, me doing French takes longer than other people because I just struggle with remembering some of the stuff. Just simply remembering it. So you have to know, when teachers say estimated an hour, sometimes it can be less than that, sometimes it can be more. And when every teacher says less than estimated an hour, I have 6 classes in one day for day 1. So that means I have 6 hours of schoolwork? That doesn't seem great. That means if I get home at 3 o'clock, I'm working till 9 o'clock? That doesn't seem great. If I have, that's not even accounting for if I have a test, which means I have to study harder for something. Or if there's outside reading, which, reading, everybody goes at the same pace, at different paces. And I'm not even offering a solution to this, because I don't know. But I guess I would just say I wish teachers were aware of it. Because it feels like some of them definitely are. I forget which teacher it was. Gosh, I forget what teacher it was now. I feel bad for forgetting them. But one time I told them, hey, I'm like, hey, listen, I have a show this weekend. Sorry, but it's not in. Oh, I know. I was down in the city seeing Hamilton that weekend, and I didn't have a time to get my algebra homework finished. And I walked in and I was just like, listen, I'm really, really sorry I didn't finish. She's like, oh, it's no problem. Don't worry about it. And I was like, that'd be nice. And I know you can't do that all the time, every teacher, but like I just wish teachers were aware of the fact that this is probably what's going on with their honors kids. Is that they're coming home and or they're not even going home because they have a soccer practice, and then they go home and then they have piano lessons once a week, and then they have vocal lessons once a week. And they're expected to practice their piano and practice their vocal, and they know that they want to make themselves better in these subjects, so you practice your sports too. And I wish that it wasn't also another thing that I wish, I guess, is that it also wasn't such a personal thing, I feel, to some teachers. Like, I feel like when you tell some teachers, like, I don't like geometry, or, for instance, I know for a fact, with how this year is going, I will not be going into a field that requires me to have an intense knowledge of geometry. So, while I'm definitely 100% aiming to get good grades in this class, it's not because I have a love of the subject, and it's not because even really I feel my knowledge of the subject, my love for the subject only goes as far as me wanting to get good grades on my finals and pass the course and pass any other tests that go along with my high school or college career that will have to do with it. That's it. And I feel like sometimes teachers will make it sound like that's not okay to do. Like, I don't have to love every single subject. I am required to take this class. I did not choose to take this class. I don't have to love it. I don't think is a thing that some teachers get. And it's not even sometimes the teacher. Like, for instance, I'm not a fan of earth science. By the end of the year, I greatly enjoyed the teacher that I had for earth science. Like, I personally enjoyed him teaching. But I still don't like earth science. And that's not because they're not a bad teacher, or because I don't like them, or because not even generally because I don't like the class. It's just, I don't like the subject, and that's fine. I'd love if I could act all the time, but I don't go to an acting school, and we don't have an acting course in our school anymore. And even as an actress and saying, oh, I think it's very, very important for kids to get everybody, to have an accurate thing of public speaking. I think it would just be cruel to take every kid and make them take a public speaking class or an acting class. Like, clearly half of them don't want to be there, so there's no point in trying to force the love of the thing down their throats. There's no point in doing that in any subject, I feel. I think math and history are the ones where this happens the most, where kids are like, wow, I really hate this subject, and I'm just here for the grade. History, personally, for me, is not that way. I actually own a t-shirt that says history is fun, so I'm that kid. But math is for me, where it's just there, and I want to get this over with as soon as possible. And I feel like sometimes teachers, even if they're aware of it, I don't think they express it well enough in the fact that every kid feels like, in a sense, most kids that you talk to will feel like every teacher wants them to 110% apply themselves to their class. And that's fine, but I don't have 400% to give you all. There's only 100% of me, and I can't even split you guys 25% each. You gotta realize that. Because there are other things that I'm interested in that the school doesn't offer, and there are other things that I do in school, and there are other parts of my life that don't revolve around these 4 core main subjects. I hope this had some form of a central idea, but I think the honors paradox, that's definitely a thing that I could expand upon, I think. The paradox of wanting to have a healthy social life and be a good, mentally healthy person, but then also wanting to keep up your 100 average in all these classes. It's very, very difficult to balance. Maybe not even for everybody, but for some people. I know it is for me sometimes. And not even all the time, but sometimes it's just, you have a week, and you just sit there and you're able to think, this is wrong in some way. And I think, I mean, I've known that for a while. And it's just good to talk about it sometimes, like, because you'll see most honors kids can all sit together. Almost everybody. It doesn't matter how their grades are. Almost every single honors kid, I think, can sit down and say, yeah, in some way, there's something off about this. And that's not great, I don't think. But that's all for today's video. If you can click right here to subscribe, you can click right here for more of my videos. You can click down below to like or comment. Thanks, bye!